bit more deeply into Excel and Google Sheets. So what we are going to do is we're going to have a look at both of them, because these are very important tools that you can be able to use, and each of them has its own different functionalities. So what we are going to do is we're just going to have a brief overview of both of them in terms of introduction. And then after that, we are going to look at each of them separately, where we are going to do some practical work so that we can be able to see some of the things that you can be able to accomplish in each of them. So I hope that we will learn something for this lesson today. And I'm just going to go straight into it. Whereby we're going to have kind of 3 segments for the training. The first is the introductory part for both of them. And then we're going to look at some practicals in Excel, then some practicals with Google Sheets. So that's what we are going to do. I'm just going to share my screen. So we are going to just have a look at the introduction. I hope you can be able to see my screen clearly. So what is Excel and what is Google Sheets? So these are some of the best known spreadsheet applications available. By spreadsheets, we mean it's an application whereby the basic laying foundation on which it is built on is on columns and rows. So what we are going to see is that it has several segments. The outline is practically the same for both of them, whereby we have rows and columns, and then we have a toolbar that enables you to do data entry, data cleaning, and analysis on the data that you've already put into the rows. So what we are going to do is we are going to see that they are mainly the same when it comes to formulas and calculations. And most of the features are the same, but we are going to also see some of the differences. And then in terms of category, this is just an introduction part. So for the category, Microsoft Excel was developed by Microsoft Corporation as MS Excel, while Google Sheets was developed by Google Limited Company as Google Sheets. And then Microsoft Excel was launched as a part of Microsoft Office, while Google Sheets is a component of the G Suite. Launching year, Excel 1987, and then Google Sheets 2006. Performance for Microsoft Excel, what you're going to see is it is very good for high volumes of data. So this is now giving us a comparison so that depending on the kind of data you have, you can be able to determine the kind of tool you need to use. So if you have very high volume data, things like 50,000 rows and above, 500,000 rows and above, sorry, it's advisable to use Microsoft Excel. But if you have low volume cells, low volume data that does not have a lot of rows, you can be able to use Google Sheets, as it's good on functionalities and speed. But when it comes to large amounts of data, it gets quite slow. Then in terms of collaboration, Microsoft Excel is not favorable for collaboration. So let's say if you have teamwork that you need to do with different members of your team, maybe in different locations or even in the same location, but each of them using their own application, their own machine, it's not very good for collaboration. But Google Sheets is excellent, and it has a feature for you to share the sheet that you're working on. Then you can be able to adjust the levels of access that each individual has, so that they can either be a viewer, they can either be an editor, they can be able to maybe add comments. So those are the 3 levels. Somebody can either add comments, somebody can either view the data on the sheet, or they can actually be able to add or remove data from the sheet. So in short, they can be able to edit. So for collaboration, Google Sheets is excellent. So each of them has its own pros and cons, and we are going to also have a look at that. In terms of, so we are now just going to look at each of them individually. So Microsoft Excel, one of some of its advantages is that it has advanced functionalities, unlimited storage space, execution speed is very fast, and it contains more options for data visualization. But some of its difficulties is that it's difficult to troubleshoot. It has different versions of Excel can make collaboration difficult, and you cannot access the sheets from your computer, from other computers other than your own. So for example, if you are somewhere and there's something that you need to access quickly, and maybe your laptop is not there or your machine is not there, it becomes a real challenge. We are going to look at Google Sheets. Some of its pros are they are free and easy to use. They are primarily built for collaboration. So the part that we highlighted that it has different levels for collaboration within the team. It has a built-in revision history, a real-time chat window. So you can be able to actually not only incorporate your team to be able to make edits and stuff like that, but you can actually be able to have them staff members can be able to have communications in real time on the chat window. Then some of its disadvantages is that its loading time increases as the data increases, so it becomes quite slow. It has limited visualization options, and it contains limited customization and formulas. So you see that each of them can be able to provide for you depending on your specifications. So it's usually advisable to actually learn both of them. One thing you'll notice is that the basic functionalities are the same, but as you become more and more advanced, it starts to have some deviations, as we're going to see on that.
Excuse me, Steve, looks like the slides are not moving. Is why?
The slides are not moving?
Yes, they are not. Why can't you just open in PowerPoint or you open in Google Sheets? Okay, yeah, sorry about that, guys. It should be fixed, and I hope that. Yeah. So like this.
Can you be able to see it now?
Yeah.
It's okay now?
Yes,
Yeah,
it's okay.
okay.
Is it moving now?
Yes, it's moving.
Yeah, it is okay now. We can proceed.
No, it's okay.
It's okay now.
Okay, fine. I hope now it's moving, right?
Yes, it's moving.
Okay.
Yeah, it's okay.
Okay, fine. That's good. So these are just some of the introductory parts. So I thought it's key for us to be able to see the differences, so that you can be able in your day-to-day work, you can be able to make the choice depending on the kind of functionality and the kind of major task to accomplish. So if you have large amounts of data, you need to use Excel. But if you have a large team, for example, or more than one person, or you want to access your data in remotely, for example, if you can actually access it through your phone, you can be able to use Google Sheets. So those are some of just the disadvantages and advantages. Okay, so what we are going to do now is we're just getting straight in. Formulas are the building block for Excel and Google Sheets. So the building block for both of them is basically the same, whereby you use formulas to calculate values in a specific order. Formula must always begin with an equal sign. Following the equal sign are the elements to be calculated, that is the operands such as constants and self-references. So what you need to understand is that you cannot be able to use a formula in Excel without using the equal sign. Even in Google Sheets, it's basically the same. So what you need to do is actually understand how do the formulas work, how do you input the values, how do you include parentheses and stuff like that. And we are going to look at that as we look at the examples. I'm just going to skip that slide for now. Some of the shortcuts we need to know. Some of the shortcuts that we need to know. So shortcuts, you see here it said formulas and shortcuts. So formulas enable you to be able to make calculations. However, for shortcuts, these are keys that you can be able, a combination of keys that you can be able to use to reduce the amount of time that you actually use to perform a particular task. So for example, if I want to to copy and paste something. There's a shortcut key that enables you to do that. But there's also a way that you can be able to use the tab to be able to actually do that. But it's much easier because you do not need to move the cursor from one part of the pane to the other. But once you have selected the data that you want to copy, just use a command. So to copy, to paste, to undo the previous, the last action, to redo the last action, to open the find and replace dialog box, to go to the first cell of the worksheet, to go to the last cell of the worksheet. These are just some of the examples that we can be able to use when you are doing the work, so that you can be able to really understand and improve the efficiency and the speed of the work that you are doing. So you see that this has both for the Windows and the MacBook, so that you can be able to combine and so that you can be able to use any depending on the kind of machine that you have. Another thing I want us to look at some of, before we go to the practical section, I want us to look at slices, filters, and pivot tables. So these are for data analysis and data cleaning. So you find that sometimes the work that you want to do, maybe the work is quite bulky, but then you find that you might need to just look at some segments of the work. So what this does is, these are some of the things that enable you to group your data. They enable you to reduce the size of your data without actually altering the data or deleting anything. They just give you the ability to be able to view your data in different forms. So we are going to have some practical lessons on the same. Basically, a slicer, a software filters used with Excel tables and or pivot tables over a large amount of data. Not just filtering out the data, but they also help you with an easy understanding of the information being extracted and displayed on the screen. However, a filter is a function that allows you to sort data within a file. So there is a difference between the slice and the filters we are going to see. A filter takes the data from a range of cells and outputs an array of data that matches the applied filter. They are an automated process that can define a list, a table, or spreadsheet based on single or multiple criteria. We're also going, we are going to see just how they differ from each other, because they perform quite similar functions, but they have slight differences. We're also going to look at a pivot table. So this is an interactive way to quickly summarize large amounts of your data. You can use it to analyze numerical data in detail and answer unanticipated questions about your data. It's especially designed for querying large amounts of data in many user-friendly ways. They are a powerful tool for analyzing large data sets. By summarizing and aggregating data, you can quickly gain insights into trends and patterns that might not be immediately apparent from raw data. Conditional formatting is another thing we're going to look at. And it allows you to highlight specific cells based on their values or other criteria. It can be especially useful for identifying outliers or anomalies in your data. So we're just going to look at those four things: slicers, filters, pivot tables, and conditional formatting. So I've just segmented each of them in a different place so that we can, I'm going to share that screen right now so that we can be able to see their segmentation separately. This is just a slightly more explanation on slices. Using slicers in Excel has proven to have multiple advantages and making life easier during real-time data analysis. Some of them include the slicer formulas. Along the formulas are easy to be copied or moved to different tables. Using slicers, it is possible to get the required information with ease within a fraction of time, eliminating the brute force method of manually filtering out the data. Slicers in Excel also help in maintaining data security and integrity, as the user is only interested in filtering out the necessary information, but not messing with the actual data. So what you will realize is that it actually just gives you a portion of the data without you actually having to delete it or remove any other data from the initial data set. So now I'm just going to share a different screen.
Yeah, so as he shares the screen, if you have any questions following the introduction, you can put your questions in the chat box, or you can actually raise your hand and ask your question. I see one question from Wekatak. What are some of the most common mistakes made when working with data in Microsoft Excel and Google Sheets? Yeah, Steve, maybe you can answer that question. This is very directly related to fact checking. Like, what are some of the common mistakes that analysts usually make when working with data in Microsoft Excel and Google Sheet? Maybe you can name one or two mistakes, and that should be okay. If you have any other questions, you can you can type. Another question somebody is asking: how can we use data cleaning, analysis, and visualization to gain insights from our data in Microsoft Excel and Google Sheets? So maybe you can answer those two questions, and then you proceed.
So for the first question, I think some of the common mistakes is one of the things that I just highlighted just now. Sometimes you might find that as an analyst, somebody is given access to company data, and because they do not know how to use things like slicers and filters and stuff like that, they end up tampering with the actual data that they have been granted access to. And it might become really challenging because keeping track of data that has been tampered with can be tedious. So that can really be a mess, especially with things like financial data or records and stuff like that. If somebody actually do not know how to do the analysis clearly without actually understanding what are some of the ways that they can be able to do, it can become a real challenge. And then for how can we use data cleaning, analysis, and visualization to gain insights from our data, Microsoft Excel? I think we are going to look at that right now. This is the practical session we are going to have. So I'll answer that as we do the practical. And then some of the tips for working with large data sets. We are also going to look at the practical so that we can answer that more clearly.
Okay, you can proceed. Yeah, you can proceed. It's clear. Thank you.
Okay, I hope my screen is visible now.
It is. It is.
The one that says data entry, data cleaning?
No. It's just an empty Microsoft. It's just an empty Microsoft Excel sheet.
It's an empty spreadsheet.
Okay, I think we got it now. So I hope it's now a clear one. Yeah, good.
Yeah,
good.
Yeah,
Now it's
it is
clear.
okay.
So now this is going to be the segmentations of how we are going to work with the practical session, which is going to take us the next 1.5 hours that we have in this class. Because I just want us to really just focus mainly on the hands-on practical work. So we are going to have 4 segments. The first segment will be data entry, and we are going to look at data entry for both Excel and for Google Sheets. Also, depending on the kind of source that you have, you're going to look at data cleaning, data analysis, and data visualization. So what I'm going to do is for data entry, I'm going to do for both of them. But for data cleaning and data visualization, I'm going to focus mainly on the for data cleaning, I'm going to also do for both of them. Data analysis, I'm going to focus mainly on Google Sheets, and then the data visualizations part, I'm going to use Excel. So I just wanted to segment that so that we can be able to get a good understanding for both of them. And I'm just going to do a few things now. Data entry. So data entry is usually the beginning or the first step that you always go through when you are working with your data, because unless you put your data into the application that you're using, we cannot be able to really have anything that to work on. That's why, for example, the sheet was blank, the other one, because no data was entered into that. So the first thing we are going to do is there are many forms of data sources you can have. when you are working with your data. So I'm just going to have a look at both of them, both for Excel and for Google Sheets. So when you want to enter new data, you go to File. Then this icon gives you several options. You can create a new sheet. You can open data that is already existing in your machine. You can be able to save your data. You can be able to save as. So saving as is different from save in the sense that save as gives you the ability to rename the sheet that you want to save. You can print, you can share, you can export, you can close, and then these other more advanced options. So I'm just going to look at new. So it gives you several two things. It can either give you a blank workbook, or it can give you a template. So I'm just going to work with the blank workbook. So I hope that's the one now that is visible. I hope that's the one now that is visible. So you find that now we have the blank worksheet because that's the one we selected. There are different panes, but I'm just going to focus mainly on the one for data entry. So I come to File, and then so there are two ways you can be able to put data into the sheet. So either you can be able to type. So you see this cursor gives you the ability to be able to actually move. So I can start typing.
Hey,
just
Steve,
here
I am not so sure we are seeing the new thing you're explaining.
Okay.
Yeah, why can't you just insert a new sheet in the same spreadsheet if you are working on Excel?
Okay, fine. So what I'm going to do is instead of because for screen sharing, I'm just going to insert a new sheet here. So if you want to insert a new sheet, you come to this icon at the bottom here, next to the names of the sheets that we already have. So you use the plus icon, and then you can be able to do your data entry either by typing or by importing data from a different place. So typing is not very complicated. I think that is quite basic. Name, age, and then state. Then you can be able to add as much information as you want, because you see it goes up to you can actually be able to have quite a number of rows. But the standard is the 26 letters of the alphabet. And then here at the bottom, we have 25 cells. So you can be able to input quite a large amount of data, but now that can be quite tricky because data entry can really take quite a lot of time. So sometimes you might, let's say you downloaded data somewhere, you just use File, then open. So this gives you the ability to be able to actually open the kind of so it gives you several options. You can either open recent workbooks that you had opened before, or you can use your drive, or you can be able to go to your computer and then select from you can be able to select from the folders that you already have, depending on actually, of course, depending on where you had saved your data. So you see, it gives you quite a lot of options that you can be able to open your data from. So that is one of the ways to be able to insert data. So let's say we want something from the desktop, then can be able to let's say we want this data here. So it's loading because it's quite a lot of data. So you see now, these are some of the challenges that you can encounter when you're trying to put in your data, because if the data is quite large, it might load in a very slow way. So you see this data I had downloaded from the World Bank. You see it has quite a lot of missing values. So this is some of the challenges that you can actually go through when you are getting data from a different source as opposed to the place that you had actually intended to do the work. So what it does is when you insert that data, it actually creates a new file for you that is quite separate from this one. So usually it's advisable when you are using this icon to add, use. So when you are using this plus icon to add, you can be, it's usually advisable for you to be able to have content that is already part of this sheet, because when you use this file option, it will create a different sheet for you. That's why maybe it might not be visible on the screen, because I see that it's the previous one that is visible, the one that I'm already right now on, but it actually creates for you a different tab, a different file, but just within Excel. So it will give you the ability for you to actually be able to, you see it has opened here, not on this book 2 that I wanted to put in the data. So if you want to open a new file, it's going to open separately from the current file that you're already operating on. So that's something that you need to pay keen attention to. So really, basically, those are the two ways that you can be able to do data entry, either by typing in the data. So for example, you have the practical that you had, like name, gender, stuff like that. Or maybe you want to insert or design maybe information for your staff. Maybe you are the HR person or individual. You can be able to actually just manually type in the data, and it's going to give you the ability for you to actually have the data installed there. So I just want us to have a look at the one for Google Sheets, how we do the data entry, because it also gives you the ability for you to be able to actually get data from different other sources as opposed to Microsoft Excel. So I'm just going to share a different screen. Just going to share a different screen. So if you want to actually open this screen for Google Sheets, there are two ways that you can be able to open. So you can either be able to open it from your machine. You can either be able to open it from your machine, or you can just open it from the Google Drive. So I'm just going to, so once you open it, it's going to give you this blank sheet, just like the way when you open Excel. It also gives you the ability to be able to do the different functionalities. There's the tab here that gives you the different options. So file, edit, view, insert, format, data, tools, extension, and help. And then down here, it gives you some of the things that you can be able to do also with your data. Small icons that can change the font, you can change the data type, you can be able to change the size, you can be able to change the alignment and stuff like that. I'm just going to focus now on the entry for the data. So you can also actually be able to get, when you come to file, it gives you several options. So file gives you the option for new. So either from a template or a new spreadsheet. So if you open new spreadsheet, it's going to give you a new blank spreadsheet, just like the previous one. Or you can actually be able to get data from other places. So when you say open, so it gives you several options that you can be able to actually open. You can be able to open recent files, so the things that you had opened before. You can be able to get data from your drive. So this is the drive that you have. So it gives you, let's say if you have folders that you already set up, or you have files. So the folders have their own section. So inside the folders, of course, there are several other folders or files. And then down here, of course, you have the files. Then it's going to list out all your files But one thing I want you to notice that it will only open Excel files or Google Sheet files. So you not find, let's say, a PDF file down here. These are all Excel files. So you also have to consider that. So, and then maybe if somebody from your team had shared a file with you, you can be able to open that. You can be able to sort it by shared dates. So you can sort by either name, last modified by me, last opened by me. So these are the options that it can be able to display. So let's say last opened by me. You see, it's going to give you a different arrangement of the work that you had been shared with. Then the name is the default. So it gives you the name of the folders and then the name of the files that you also have. Then start if you had highlighted a file, computer, and then you can also be able to upload. So for uploading is if you have work on your desktop that on your machine that you want to actually upload and work with in Excel, in Google Sheets, you can just browse. Then it gives you the ability to be able to get data from any of those folders that are stored in your laptop. Or if you had downloaded data, for example, from a source, then you want to now just put it directly here, you can just drag the data and upload it here, and it's going to reflect for you. So those are some of the ways you can be able to do your data entry. So you can either open or you can also import. So you see, you can be able to also import a folder. You can also be able to make a copy of the work that you already have. You can share the file, you can email, you can download your work, and stuff like that. So those are just some of the ways that you can be able to put the file inside your spreadsheet so that you can be able to start working on it. Another very key thing that key method that I want us to look at before we proceed to the next section is, let's say you have a website that you want to highlight, and then you want to copy data from that site. You can actually be able to use a formula for you to be able to import that data into the file and then start working on it. So I'm just going to have a practical here. So this is a table that I had imported from our Wikipedia page. So one thing I want us to notice is I'm just going to do it again here. I'm just going to copy this formula here. So I want to import the formula. I just remember we said that if you want to have a formula in Excel or in Google Sheets, you must always start with an equal sign. So if I have to put the equal sign, then I paste. So if I want to paste the data, I just use Control V. Remember we said that. But now you'll notice that there's an error here because if I press enter, it will give me an error. And the reason it is giving me an error is saying formula pass error. So it means that it's not able to open the formula. And the reason for that is it has two equal signs. Remember we had copied we had actually cut the formula from the other page to this page. So that's why it came with the equal sign. Okay, let's just put that on there. But then I can actually be able to have the formula in of itself. So I just say equals, and then I type import. So it's going to give me several options that I can be able to import my data from. I can import data from a structured data online, can import data from a URL or from a URL in CSV format, can import a feed, can import HTML. So imports data from table or list in the HTML page, import range from another sheet. So those are some of the ways that you can actually be able to do the data entry using that one specific formula. So once I type import, it's going to give me all these options. So I just come down here, I select the one that I want. I want the HTML page. So I already have the link here. Remember, we already had the link. So you see, if I try to click on that, it's not going to accept because this equal sign is referencing to this formula. So if I click on that, it's select B3. But so we'll just rest this for the moment, just so that I can be able to explain how this formula works. So remember, we put import HTML. This is the formula. And then this is how we open the brackets. We put the link. So we put the link to the website that we have in double quotes. You see, it has double quotes at the beginning, here at the beginning, and here at the end. So remember that if you did not put it in double quotes, you're not going to get the information from that place. And then what do you want to import? Do you want to import a table or a list? So you also have to put that inside double quotes, because if you do not put it inside double quotes, it's not going to read. And then which table do you want to import? So for example, from this, this is our Wikipedia page on the Women's World Cup. So it has different tables, because it's a football website. So it has different tables. So let's say I want to import, this is the link, this is the formula, this is the link, this is the specification of what I want to import, and then this is the table number. So if I put table 1, see, it says loading. This is the first table is going to give me. So I can just keep adjusting. Let's say I want the second table. Remember, when I click anywhere else outside the cell in which I put the formula, it's not going to reflect except just the actual content of the table. But if I click on this cell where I had input the formula, it's going to give me a highlight of the formula. So let's say I want to import table 2. See, it keeps giving me different kind of tables, depending on the reference that I have given for that table. See, it keeps giving me all that. But the table I want us to import is table 5, because it's the one I want us to use for practical to do something else. You see, this is a very easy way for you to be able to actually import the data, because sometimes you might try to copy and paste data from a site to your feed, to your Excel Google Sheet slide. It gives you some errors and stuff like that. But if you use the formula, it gives you quite an easy way for you to be able to import the data. I hope you guys can be able to hear me. I see somebody saying in the comments that there is no audio. Hello, can you guys hear me?
Yes.
It's very clear.
We are getting you. Yes, I'm getting you.
Okay.
Yeah, we are
Okay,
getting
thanks.
you.
Thank you. So that just gives us another way for us to be able to import data, as opposed to the other ways. So you can either import it from a different web page, or you can be able to upload it from your computer, or you can be able to do the typing yourself for the data. So that marks the end for the first part of the class that we are having. So now I just want us to go to the next part, which is for data cleaning. I know it's because of time, I'll try to move a bit faster and combine some things. So I'm just going to share the screen again. I'm just going to start using this for data cleaning. So you find that now we already have the table that we have. Now we already have our work imported directly into the Excel file. So now what we want to do is we want to start cleaning the data. So you find that this data, you cannot, some things you cannot be able to visualize them. So for example, if you want to identify patterns and stuff like that, you might want to just maybe like do things like highlighting and stuff like that, because you see now we cannot even see the titles, you cannot see the headers and stuff like that. So I'm just going to, before we do that, I'm just going to delete this section. Okay. So I want you guys to notice something. I'm trying to delete some data from here, but it's not able to delete. And the reason with that is I had imported this data from a web page. So remember, you cannot, this is just this is live data, so you cannot be able to edit it on your side. So what you need to do now is once you have imported this data, you actually need to copy it. So just press the cursor here, then press and hold, then move it to where you want to select. Then right click. It gives you several options. You can either cut, you can copy and paste, space special and stuff like that. So I just want us to copy the data. You see it highlights. And then we add a new sheet. But since we had this sheet that was blank, we're not going to add it again. Just going to put here, and where you want your table to begin, just select that, then paste special. So one thing you need to understand is when pasting the data, there are different forms. So you can either paste the data directly the way it is, or you can paste special. And pasting special is what I want us to paste now. So sometimes you might just want to paste the values. It gives you the ability to actually be able to alter the data and manipulate and mark on it. Can format, I can paste format only, can format, you can paste the formulas only, and this other stuff. So you just want us to paste the values only because of time. So you find that I already have my table here, but there are several cells that are out here. There are several cells that are above here. So I just want us to start now just making our work to appear much more professional. And what I want us to do is I want us to remove these first two columns. And then I want us to also remove this one. Or in fact, what we can do, instead of removing them, we can freeze them so that if I scroll out here, I can be able to actually just see the data already remaining there. So if you want to remove them, just come to to where the indexing has been done. So you select that. So you just press on that, it's going to select the whole column, the whole row. You right click and then delete row. So there are several options it gives you, either to insert a row above. So it says insert a row above, it automatically inserts and adjusts the indexing, or you can be able to delete the row. See, it removes the row. If you want to delete two rows, just highlight both of them, press select and then control. Then you can be able to, so it gives you now the ability to delete row 1 and 2, clear row 1 and 2, hide them, resize them, create a filter, and these other options. Let me just delete them so that we can have this. Now the headers are the ones in the first row. Just also remove these two using the same method. So you see now it's not saying rows, it's saying columns A and B. Okay, good. So now we have our work cleared. I want to highlight these two rows. But then the first thing I want us to do is you find that some of the rows have not been adjusted in terms of like content seems to be spilling over into other rows. So I want us to adjust these two rows. The way to adjust is you come to where to the end of that row, not the beginning, to the end. So let's say I want to adjust row H, the size of row H. I just come to where it will create a highlight between those two rows, and then I double click. You see, it adjusts the size of that row. Same thing for row I, adjust so that at least the content can be contained completely inside the cell. So now I want us to highlight these two rows. So there are two ways. You can either select and highlight both of them. So let's say I want to maybe make all the contents in those two cells bold. So I just come to this second part of the tab of the formula tab. It gives me different options. Can be able to increase the font size, can be able to make it bold, which is what I want. Then if I want to increase the font size, I can either type the number that I want, or I can just increase it using the plus sign. So you can work with that for now, and also be able to make it italic. So if you want to maybe make it italic or something, you can be able to have, it gives you that functionality. You can also be able to adjust the text color, gives you all these options, but I think we can just work. Actually, let's put a different color. It's a green. So yeah, you see if I select it, automatically it's going to adjust. Then now I want us to put in the fill. So I select. So there are two ways. So either I can be able to select all of them and then come to this option that gives me the fill color. So let's say I put that color. But the problem with that is if I scroll this side, even up to row Z, it has put in the fill. So for example, if you not want to put in the fill for all that, so just press Control Z to go back and then just select how far you want your fill to go. So let's go up to I. Then just insert the fill that we had, or choose a different color. Can do choose a different color. You see, automatically it gives you the highlight for the. It gives you the highlight for the headers that you want. So you can also be able to adjust and make changes. So let's say I want to split these two because you see there is a confusion, not really a confusion, but a double entry, whereby the venues and the cities have been combined. So what it's explained to us is for each individual host, the number of venues and the number of cities might not match. So you might find that one city has different venues. So that's why you might find that they are different. Let's say for China, it's actually just for China, which is different. So what I want us to do is I want us to split these two into into different columns. So I just insert, I select the row, the column that I want to work on, then insert column right. So let's say I want to put the cities here. So I can be able to just change this. So I want now the values for cities, which are the second values here. So what I want to do is I just want to use a formula to be able to extract. Okay, let me just use it for explanation clearly. So I want to have both. I want to have both of them separately. So I can have the venues here. So that I can be able to just split this and not tamper with the data that I already have. Because sometimes I remember those are some of the challenges that we had when we said that you might find that people are tampering with the data as opposed to actually having it appear in the just working with it while not tampering with it. So you can use a formula that extracts for me the value here. So I use a formula, a kind of truncating formula, which gives us the number of values that we want, either to the left or to the right or to the middle of what we want. Hello, guys, can you hear me? Hello?
Very clear.
Yeah, we are getting you. We are getting you.
Oh, okay, okay. That's fine. So I'll just use the formula. So for truncating, a truncating formula. So remember, all our formulas always start with an equal sign. So I say right. But also you need to understand what you are extracting. The cities are being the cities are on the ones on the right. So I say right, and then I need to select the range. Then you use a comma sign to separate, and then you say 1. And you see, it gives me the option that I have, but it also gives me a suggested autofill. So what it does is Google Sheets gives you the ability, it actually has a built-in functionality whereby it's able to detect what you have been able to do and then apply it on the columns, on the rows just below the row that you have. So if I want that, I just press the tick sign, and then it gives me that. Then I do the exact same thing here. But instead of using now the right, I'm going to use the left, because the left, this part is the substring that I want to extract. So venues, so 6, 5, 8, 8, and stuff, all the way up to 10. And then parentheses, select the range, comma, select the number, the size of the substring that you want. Then it gives me the but now you'll find that we have a challenge. So if I select that, you find that here now we have 1 instead of 10. And the problem with that is the flash fill that we had was able to detect that we are only selecting the first value. So what I need to do is, for this particular value, I can just come to that particular cell. Instead of having 1 here, I can be able to put 2. Remember, so notice I'm not putting 10, or I'm not putting the actual content. I'm putting the size of the substring that I want to extract. If I press enter, gives me that. So that is one of the ways you can be able to actually extract the data by actually splitting the values on these rows. So I'm just going to go through a few other things. I know my time is quite spent, so I'll try to move a bit faster. We'll have questions after I'm done with the data cleaning part, but we can also be able to just keep the questions. I see already a question. How sure will you be with the separation of cities? We can just put the questions in the chat box. I'm not sure.
I have a question regarding what you are trying to explain, because I see the number, the figures which are in cities and venues, they are all the same.
They are not the same.
Okay.
Remember what we are doing. Yes.
At first it was the same, but I think it is now changing.
Okay, because remember the beginning, we didn't have these 2 columns. Columns D and E were not there. So what we are doing is we are splitting this column C into values for column D and column E. And another thing you need to understand is that this is data for venues. So you might find that a venue, let's say like a host, had the exact number of venues and cities. So that's why sometimes it might appear like, because for most of it, except for the first and the last, they are exactly the same. 9 cities, 9 venues. 5 cities, 5 venues. 6 cities, 6 venues. So that's why it might be appearing that it's like it's the same. So another thing I want us to do is, now I'm just going to go back to the Excel file, so that we can also be able to see some of the ways we can be able to do the data cleaning for the Excel file. I'll just share a different screen. I'll just share the screen. So you see here now I have several options, several things for data cleaning. I have flash field, I have text columns, I have free space, and I have formulas. So, but I think for the formulas, I've explained from the beginning how you can be able to actually just input the formulas. So I'm just going to go to the tab for data cleaning. I hope it's the one that's showing the screen now. So I'm going to have each of the 3 explanations that I have here. For flash field, text to columns, and then free space. Here in the data cleaning, I have its own separate data. For the first and the last, it's the same data, but it's just to explain two concepts. So this is just data that is downloaded online. So it might not mean a lot, but we can be able to use it to do our examples. So the first one is the content in column A. The first one is the content in column A, which is giving me a list of names. But then you find that let's say if you have a lot of work, a lot of values, you see if I scroll downwards, all my headers are going to disappear. So what I want us to do is I want us to actually freeze some of these rows so that we can be able to actually have content. Let's say if I'm trying to display something, it will not be a challenge for me to be able to actually display it. So I just come to this section, I highlight the column, then I go to view. Remember, I'm going to view. So I come to this option that says free space. Right below the name view, there is this part that explains. There's one that explains for zooming, for windows, then for macros, then for workbook views. So I come to freeze panes. So it gives me several options. I can freeze panes, so keep rows and columns visible while the rest of the worksheet scrolls based on your current location. You can freeze the top row or you can freeze the first column. So I'm just going to say freeze top row. And you see it's now give me a highlight. So let's say if I want to freeze, so unfreeze and then freeze panes. So the panes is going to split my work into several panes, so that if I scroll up and down, you see some of them keeps it's hidden, so that you cannot be able to actually disappear. But then if I want to just undo that, just come here and unfreeze the panes, and then automatically now scrolling all the way up. So that gives you the ability, for example, if you have headers in your data and you have quite a lot of data, let's say if I want to freeze the two rows, I just come to select them. Then I go to the same thing, the same location, view, freeze panes, and then freeze panes. Doing that same thing. So let's say I want to unfreeze that. But also, it gives you the ability for you to be able to now, let's say I want to freeze the first one that has the names, then freeze panes, freeze top row, gives me now the ability to be able to see what the values represent. So if I want to go back, I just press Control Z. I'm going to have my work. So that part for freezing panes gives me really the ability to be able to, let's say if I want to have, if I have a lot of data, I can also be able to do the same thing with Google Sheets, so that you do not start wondering what are these values representing and stuff like that. The next thing I want us to look at is for flash fill. So let's say I have this data and I am trying to do some analysis. So you find that, let's say I want to split, this is a data set that contains the names of the individuals. If I want to do like to split the work so that we have, let's say, just the first names for the last names. If I have these are the two names, so I can be able to use a formula. So just type the name that I have, and then use a shortcut key, Control E. Control E, you see automatically it fills out for me. So you see there's this option that says flash fill options. So what it does is it has done the same thing for all the values that I had automatically within a fraction of a second. I can do the same thing for the last names. I have here Smith. It's able to detect that that's what I want. So just select that, then Control E. Automatically is going to fill out the work for me. So what it does is it's a shortcut key that really enables you, especially when you're doing data cleaning. You can be able to either have the formula that we saw in the formula that we saw in the Google Sheets, or you can be able to use this shortcut key for Control E, especially for Excel, because it really gives you the ability to be able to just highlight, analyze, clean the work in a very, very fast way. Also be able to do the initials. So I have the initials, the first letter of the first name and then the first letter of the last name. If I press Control E, automatically it detects that that is what I want to have. So it's a very, very key thing that you can be able to use. And remember that I was able to fill this out just instantly and it's for 3 columns. So you can imagine how much efficiency it improves for your work. And then the last part for data cleaning that I want us to look at is, let's say, for example, I have this data. I have this data that I have here. This data is all contained in one column. It has the address or the contact of that person. It has the name. It has the device, and then it has the pricing. So what we want to do is we want to split this content into different columns. So what you can do is you can just select the content that you want to split. Then I come to data, the data tab. You find that the data tab gives you several options. Options for getting data, connecting data to different sources, sorting and filtering your data, and then data tools, outline, then analysis. So the part I want us to focus is the data tool, because it's quite a relevant tool that we can be able to really use. So just select that, and then I set text to columns. You see here, it gives, if you put your cursor long enough there, it gives you an explanation for what it does. So text columns split a single column of text into multiple columns. For example, you can separate a column of full names into separate first and last names. So for this, for this data that we had here, we can also be able to use that. So you can choose how to split it up: fixed width, split at each comma, split at each period, or you can specify the character that you want to use it to split. So I'm just going to press to click on that. So this is the original data. So the text wizard has determined that your data is delimited. If this is correct, choose next, or choose the data type that best describes your data. So delimited means characters such as commas or tabs separate each field. So you see here we have a character that is separating the content. So it highlights for us the content there. You press next, and then this screen lets you set the delimiters your data contains. You can see how your text is affected in the preview below. You see here, down here, we have the preview, but remember I had already put that there. But so you see, it will split by a tab. This one we could have used in the previous data, the one that has the names. But then here now, if we look at the preview, our data is not split. So we need to specify the another. So because it's not limited by a tab, semicolon, comma, or space. So we just put the other, and then I put an underscore there, and you can be able to clearly see that my data now is split correctly. You can scroll down to see how it is up to the end. Then if you are satisfied with how your data appears, just press next. And then column data format, can be able to also format your work. So this screen lets you select each column and set the data format. So for each of them, so if I want, so for example, if now, because now I have several columns, and I can be able to specify the data type that I want for that particular column. So if I want a date time, if I want text, if I want general, I can be able to specify that. So once you are satisfied with how your work appears, you can just press finish, and you see automatically all my work is separated. So you can imagine how much what it would have taken you to be able to just manually split this data, when actually you can be able to just have a formula that automatically converts your data. Then now you can come and rename your data set, your data. So you can say here, instead of raw data, you can have code. Then you can have first name, have last name, can have device, and you can have price. Automatically, you already have your work split out in a very, very interesting way, and in a way that is much more easy to understand as compared to previously how it was. And also be able to just edit that. So let's say if I want to remove the fill, and just put that, then the text color, and be able to put automatic, and I'm going to select that. So these are just some of the ways that you can be able to use formulas and other functionalities available in Excel and Google Sheets for you to be able to actually do your data cleaning in a very easy and satisfactory way. So that is the end of the first part for data cleaning. I want us now just to go to data analysis, because our time is really going quickly. So for data analysis, we are going to look at several things. We're going to look at filters, slicers, pivot tables, and conditional formatting. So what we are going to do for this one is we are going to go back to the Google Sheet part that we had, to the Google Sheet that we data we had already imported, and then we are going to have these options highlighted for us. I'll just quickly go back to that. Let's go back to the practical for Google Sheets. So now we have our work here. Good. So now we have our work here, the table that we want to analyze. But then you find that there are so many things that you can be able to actually just do for this particular work. One of the things you can be able to do, noise freezing. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, we are getting you.
We are getting you. Yes, I am getting you.
Yes. Thank you for that. Yes, right. Okay, it's good to know. So I was saying that when you have a data set like this, there are so many things that you can be able to just highlight and select the and be able to do in terms of data visualization and data analysis. So one of the things I want us to do is I want us to find the average total attendance for all these venues. So this was just want to delete that, and also delete this. I also want to delete this row here because the World Cup has not for 2023 has not yet been completed. So I'll just work with what is already complete. So I want us to find the average and that average for the total attendance, average for the average. So in terms of the numbers, how many people are there in overall for the World Cups that have already been hosted? Remember, it started in 1991 up to 2019. So we have 8 World Cups that we're analyzing here. So total attendance. So if I want to find the total attendance, I just use a formula for us to be able to actually highlight the attendance. So I use a formula. Remember, formulas all start with an equal sign. So I say equals. You see, automatically it has detected what I want. And if I want a sum, I just select that. Automatically it's going to, because we are doing the average for this part, just going to use the average. Just 1 minute. So just use average. Then I select the columns that I want. What is it's up to H6, but I can be able to edit it here. When up to H10, so you see it highlights that, and it's able to give me the value for that. So, and then for the highest number, so I want, let's say, to find out which stadium had the maximum highest number in terms of all the attendance. So I just use the formula 2. Then I have a maximum function. So maximum value in numeric data set. Then I select the range and I press enter. You see, it's going to give me the maximum of all the values that you can be able to incorporate in your work, especially the scope of how like the impact that your work has. Key for us to be just, I want us to look at slices and filters. So remember, we said that slices and filters are some of the ways that you can be able to really just look at segments of the data as opposed to use it. But what I'm going to do is to clearly illustrate that. I'm just going to just insert a column here. So able to see which continents have been able to North America. It's just going to take a minute or so. You see automatically Europe, then North America, then have here Europe. To use slices and filters, I'm just going to illustrate both of them at once. So our time is really flying. So let's say I want to determine which World Cups have been held in Asia or which World Cups have been held in Europe. I can be able to, of course, highlight that, but instead of doing manually, I can be able to use a slice or a filter. So if I want to do that, I just select the column I want. And then it creates for me this filter down here. Now it will give data in terms of how I want it to appear. I can be able to sort it alphabetically, so it cannot be able to sort. Can filter by condition or filter by values. So for the purposes of this class, I'm just going to focus on this part down here. Remember, we have the continents that are represented, and then we have some blank cells, because remember, this filter has been applied all the way down. See, it's already highlighting. So I can be able to actually just filter it out. Can even just remove the blanks. You see, just by selecting only those values that are not blank, I can be able to actually highlight that. Alternatively, if I want to have all the rows shown, but I just want to have the World Cups held in the Asian continent, can be able to keep saying that. And be able to just uncheck the one for Europe and North America, press OK, then automatically it gives me that. But remember, these values are not altered because we have not tampered with the data. The World Cups that have been held from 1991 to 2019. So remember that we said that the filter just gives you the ability to be able to just check without actually tampering with it. So this gives you, so let's say I want Europe and North America, then no blanks. Just select the other two that I want, press OK, and it's going to display that for me. But now you see that the formulas, the one that had the total average and all that, is not shown because we have. So that is the data using a slice or using a filter, so that you can be able to really just get this understanding of the work that you have. So if you want to remove the filter, just come to the icon, then select all, or you can be able to clear. Can select all, or you can be able to clear it. If you want to remove the filter, you just come to where you had put it. If you click on it, automatically it's going to disappear. So that is just a very, very useful way for you to be able to just look at your working segments as opposed to having to just go through all the data. You can also be able to sort it in terms of, and also be able to sort the work in terms of the order. You see, can be able to sort it, but then now it's going to tamper with also things like the values and the titles and all that. But then if you do not want to tamper with the titles, you can just select the part that you want to sort and come to data, sort range, filter fuse, add slice and stuff like that. So let's say if I want to sort the work by column C, it's going to do this exact same thing. But if I just sort the range, it's going to actually just sort this particular range as opposed to the rest of the table. We just select that, then data, then add a slicer. So I want us to check some of the things. So if for a slicer, one is not going to be inside the column that we want to alter and view the data in terms of what it does is you can actually be able to move it around, can be able to use the column I'll be able to say, let's say, continent. So you can be able to, let's say, if I want to just see the continents for, if I want to just see the work for let's say, the other two, and just select that, and TUC is going to just highlight that for me. But then, of course, for the selecting part is the same, but remember, for the blanks, it's not going to do away with the blanks like the filters does. So if I have blanks and Europe only, just going to show me for Europe. But the advantage with the slicer is you can be able to how it's stuff like that. So that is just basically the difference. You can be able to edit the slicer, copies, delete, set current filters as default, or you can be able to learn more. So you can edit the slicer. Column and be able to have, say, for hosts, can be able to apply a filter, and then you just need to move it a bit. Let's say I want to, and just actually just put it on a new column here, and just adjust this. So if I just want to see all the hosts, let's say I want to just 3 hosts, you see I'm able to just see all that. So those are just some of the things you can be able to tamper with in terms of just adding the values, stuff like that. If I want to delete the slicer, I can just delete that. Hey, good. So now
Okay, looks like we dropped Steve. Yeah, looks like Steve has dropped, but we hope that he bounces back. In the meantime, if you have any questions, you can ask, or if you have any comments that you would like to make, whether you are learning something or there are some areas that you want to be covered, you can just make a few comments in the chat box. And I see a comment from Theophilus. Theophilus, sorry about the network. You can always follow the slides later on when we share, and you can also at your free time check out the recording on YouTube. That can give you sort of some recap of the key things that have been discussed here. So it's already 30 minutes past 11. I'm going to share their attendance in the chat box so that you are able to register your attendance for today. Yeah, I have shared the attendance. So I see Steve is back. Yeah. So Steve, can you hear us now? Is your network okay? Steve, can you hear us now?
yes,
Okay.
yes, I can hear you.
Yes.
Am I clear?
You dropped a bit. Now you can proceed.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you.
so yeah, I've shared the attendance in the chat box. You guys should be able to fill your register for today, and then make sure that it is in full detail, because I've seen a lot of you complain that they have been attending sessions, but then their attendance count is not reflecting what they say they have attended. So you should make sure that you completely fill and then submit your attendance register. It's very, very important for all of us. Yes, Steve, you can
It
proceed.
is very true. Like, for instance, for me, I'd only missed once. But my attendance, the submission of the attendance, I saw it's really not corresponding with my attendance. So,
Yeah,
and I
probably because
always fill my form.
you didn't complete the form. Otherwise, we do not alter any record, that is, because all those things are automated. So we don't actually influence, we don't delete stuff. Like the attendance is as it is submitted. So probably there's something that
Another
did
thing,
you
I don't know whether you people have corrected my name, because my name, the way it reads, is not the way I submitted. My name is Christombella Knight, but it's been splitted into two. Christombella is been like Christo, then Mbella, in which it is one name. So it has not to be a mistake, so that my certificate shouldn't be like that.
Okay, fine. We have edited your name. I think it should be fine now. Yes, Steve, you can proceed.
Okay, thank you, Bida, for that, and thanks everyone. So as we are proceeding, remember we were doing the data cleaning part. So now what I want us to do is just move to the data visualizations, so that we can be able, before we have some part for the questions. So now you have cleaned your data. It's in the way that you want it to be. You have analyzed and you have come up with all the analysis that you had intended to achieve. Now we come to the last part of the training, which is for data visualization. And now what we want to do is we want to transform our data into graphs and charts. So I'm just going to what I'm going to do is I'm just going to do data visualization for Google Sheets and data visualizations for Excel, so that you can be able to compare both of them. So let's say I want to do a visualization for the number of matches that each country has attended. So I'm just going to go to this column H that has the matches. I'm going to highlight the part of the data that I want to visualize. So once I have done that, I can come to insert chart, or I can just come to just next to the filter, can also insert a chart there. It's going to automatically insert the chart for me, but then you find that this chart is quite not clear in terms of like the labels and stuff like that. You can now be able, once you have your chart here, can be able to also custom.
Steve, you have not shared the screen. Please kindly share your screen.
Is it now visible?
Yes, it can be seen now.
Okay, thank you for that. I could have just continued and not notice that. So remember, as I said, that now we want to visualize the work that we have. Let's say I want to visualize the number of matches. Now I just select the range that I want to visualize. Then I come to this icon here. Automatically it's going to insert me a column chart. But then I can be able to adjust several things. I can be able to adjust the column type. You see, I have so many options. I have scatter plot, map, stuff like that. But then remember things you need to consider, because for the column chart, I think it's a good comparison for this particular charts. So we go with that, stacking none. So the range, so the axis, you can be able to add values on the axis. So it's just customize the part, chart style, then series. Okay, let's just add the axis first. Can be able to search, or we can be able to just insert a range. So I'm just going to select this range here so that we can have the names. So remember that the column chart just for the horizontal axis is for this axis, but then down here you need to actually be able to have your work selected so that you can be able to have the labels for the data. So you can be able to do several other things for this, for the chart to make it more appealing. Of course, now you cannot present something like that to your supervisors or even for your work. You can be able to add a chart title when you come to the customization part. Chart title can just say number of matches. Number of matches in the World Cup. So you can type the work, the data, the title there, and also be able to adjust the font size. You can make it bold. You can make it bold. You can adjust the text color. So let's say we have dark blue. Can also be able to adjust the alignment. So you can put it at the middle or wherever you desire to put it. So it just gives you the ability to be able to just alter the title. And then after you have altered the title, you can also be able to alter, you can be able to add the subtitle. So let's say total number of matches. So let's say groups final. Can just add that. So you see that the font is default, the alignment is default. So you can just put it just below the title. Can make it also a bit bold. Can also be able, so once you are satisfied with that, you can be able to just move to the next part. You can be able to add the axis titles, so the horizontal title. So name of country. So you can have here name of host country. Of course, you can make it bold, can adjust it, the color, then the vertical axis. Then here we have number of matches, or vertical axis. Then you come here to number of matches. So it just gives you the ability to be able to just work on the data, on the data visualization that you already have. Also be able to adjust the color of your bars. So the series can be able to adjust the color. So the only challenge with this is that usually by default it selects for the column to have the same color. So you can be able to change the color that you want, let's say, have a different color. You can be able to change the transparency. So the opacity is the transparency. So opacity comes from opaque. So it's the inverse of transparency. So you can make it, let's say, less transparent, less opaque, but more transparent, 70%. You can have 50%. You see, it keeps decreasing in the color, in the shade of the color. You can also be able to have 90%. Once you're satisfied with that, also be able to adjust the line color, the thickness of the line and stuff like this. Can be able to format data points, or you can actually be able to add another thing that is very important is can be able to add the labels. So if you add the labels, you not, because for example, this scale here is grouped in terms of 20s, in multiples of 20, but then you might want to show the exact number of games. So you can use the data labels to be able to really just show the number of values. Then of course you can be able to adjust it, can be able, so the data labels can be able to make it bold, can change its color, can maybe make it maybe this light blue, stuff like that, depending on how you want your visualization to appear. And then you can be able to put a trend line, can also be able to add a legend and the axis. So those are just some of the things that you can be able to, some of the ways that you can be able to just adjust the visualization that you have, so that you can be able to really just have it in the way that you want it to appear. And you see that even if I close this editor, if I come to the chart itself, I click on it, these three dots just gives me the ability to be able to go back to several other options. So you can edit the chart, you can delete the chart, you can copy the chart. You can be able to do quite a lot with the chart. I don't know why the download icon is disabled, but usually you are able to copy to download the data as a PNG or a SVG file that you can now be able to just share it you can be able to share it as an image to other people for them to be able to actually just have the visualization without actually having the raw data shared to them. So you can also move it to its own sheet. That's going to really make it a bit big. So that is just how you can be able to use visualizations to be able to have the work, your work in a much more practical and much more understandable way. So because of time, I'm just going to go to also the Excel part, just to be able to show us a few things on that, so that we can be able to also understand that. Let me just share a different screen. You just go back to the initial part that we had, the initial slide that we had. It's showing. So we come to this last part for spark lines and graphs. So what this does, the reason I've decided to put it separate is the spark lines are kind of miniature graphs that you can be able to use it to be able to do the visualizations. And then you can, of course, you can also be able to select the kind of, you can also be able to select the data, some part of the data and just be able to use it to visualize, to be able to do the normal graphs. So I'm just going to just look at that. So just select the range of the data that you want. You come to this part that says charts. You comment the charts, then the different kind of options, then a pivot chart. I'm just going to do a bar graph. You see, but the reason I do not want us to really focus a lot on this because the customization for this is far less as compared to the one for Google Sheets. So if you want to do visualization, once you have analyzed your data in Excel, there are also other tools that you can be able to use it to visualize your work. Once you have been able to do the analysis up to the end. But of course, you can also be able to edit the title, can be able to have several things, several customizations on the, so you can have the fill, can have the border, you can adjust the color and stuff like that. So those are just some of the characterizations, just like what we were able to do with Google Sheets. But there's something I want us to have a look at, the sparklines, because I think that is quite essential. So sparklines really are miniature graphs that gives you the ability to be able to, for you to be able to just see, instead of making a very big chart, just a kind of trend line that you can be able to add to your data. So what you need to do is you select the range that you want to have. And then you come to the insert tab. This part, immediately after the charts, there is the part that says sparklines. So it has three options. You can have a line, have a column or you can have a win and loss. So mostly it's advisable to use a line chart because it's sparklines and mini charts placed in single cells. It's representing a row of data in your selection. So columns, sparklines, mini charts, just the same thing. So it's just like an explanation for what they represent. So if I want to insert a sparkline, it gives me a kind of dialog box that gives me two parameters that I have to satisfy for me to be able to have the sparkline. The first one is the range of the data that I want to visualize, and then the location of where I want where you want to place your sparkline. Because remember we said the sparkline are placed in single cells. So let's say if I put N2, I can be able to have the sparkline already highlighted here. Of course, you can be able to adjust this, or you can be able to just have it remain like that. You see, this gives you the ability to just be able to edit. So if you want black and have that, and of course, just different colors and stuff like that. Just gives you those functionalities to be able to just adjust. So these are the different colors that you can have. Marker color, sparkline color. So those are just some of the functionalities that it gives you the ability to be able to use. Let's just use the blue one because it's quite visible. So once I have my sparkline here, I can be able to just drag down and have kind of sparklines for all these cells. So remember, the reason for something like this, for using a visualization like this, if let's say, for example, if you want to just highlight the trends, so you see for Spain, there's quite an increase, while for Italy, there's quite a decrease. For France, there is a variation and a particular increase for Portugal and Belgium, a very high increase, and then a dip, and then an increase for Holland. And then you can be able to see that even for Germany. So you can be able to easily understand how your data varies within the particular cells. So we just, those are some of the things that we can do to be able to do visualizations. And the reason we were able to just highlight just some of that is because of time, of course. But Excel and Google Sheets really give you the ability to be able to just go through your work from start to finish, from data entry all the way up to visualizations. And then now you can be able, for example, if you are presenting a slide like the one I'm presenting right now, can be able to just have something like that. Is a kind of trend line that enables you to be able to just get an overview of the data as opposed to just having to look through with your own eyes. So that's just some of the things that you can be able to do as far as data analysis and visualization is concerned, both are using Excel and Excel and Google Sheets. So we have 10 minutes before the end of our class. So maybe we can just use the 10 minutes for questions, not comments, questions.
Okay, great. Thank you so much, Steve. Ladies and gentlemen, I hope that you've been able to get some tips and tricks on how you can sort of play around with data analysis, how you can clean your raw data, and how you can visualize your data using graphs and yes, work attack, what are the best practices? This is already answered. If you followed the presentation keenly, you already got the answer for that. So that wouldn't be answered because you asked this earlier. Yes, any other questions? If you have questions, if there's a tip and trick of how certain things are done in Excel and you would want to know, you can please ask. Because like I said, we are moving towards the end of the trainings and you wouldn't have opportunity with this trainer again. This is his last session. So if you have questions, please do ask. Yeah, as we wrap up. Any questions, you can raise your hand or you can put your questions in the chat box. In the chat box, yeah. Any questions?
Yes, Vida. I wrote the question. Yeah, I sent on the chat box.
I say, yeah, your question is already answered previously. You like when you followed the presentation keenly, there were some tips and tricks that were shared when you are looking at data using when you're visualizing data, you need to make sure that you have a proper title, make sure that your axes are very clear with descriptions, and then you should have just a clear idea of what your audience should be able to capture from the story. So that was clearly explained, and these are best practices that you should be able to keenly follow when you are working with data. Any other questions? Okay. Silence means there are no announcements. Next week will be next week will be rent. We work in the and then we'll send you the certificates before Friday that you can check out if there are any details that can be in the certificate. We'll send you that for review. And then one last thing, today we plan to make out the data reimbursement based on the records that we shared in the WhatsApp group. So again, I am going to share that spreadsheet now for the final time. And if you want any corrections made to your details, please let us know before we begin the transactions later today. I wish you the very best of your morning, and please do take good care of yourselves. Let us meet in the WhatsApp group. Thank you so much, Steve, and have a good day.
Thank you
over
very
there.
much.
Thank you. You're welcome.
Thank you. Have a great day.
Thank you everyone for
Thank you.
attending the session.
Thank you so much.
Okay, bye.